Right, let's start with Manchester United and let's start with Marcus Rashford. Dharmesh, any chance he could be off this month?
Never say never is the wording that I've been given this afternoon. Look, a number of clubs, including AC Milan, have kind of internally discussed at their own club whether they want to make an approach to Manchester United with regard to a move for Marcus Rashford. Remember, he did that interview with Henry Winton not too long ago saying that he needed a new challenge, the next steps in his footballing career. With Milan, they would only be able to do a loan, is what we're being told. And alongside that loan, they would require Manchester United to basically stump up a high portion of Marcus Rashford's rather high wages that he has at the moment. United, for their part, they've yet to receive any kind of official offer for Marcus Rashford. And every time Ruben Amorim is asked a question about Rashford, it seems to be in every single press conference, it seems to be in every single post-match interview as well. He has said it is up to Marcus Rashford. As long as he trains properly, he will be back in the squad. He missed those 4 games, remember. Then he was back in the squad for the Newcastle game, but he was an unused substitute. And then the Liverpool game, he was ill and he didn't make the squad at all at Anfield. But with regard to Rashford, it seems like all options are open with regard to his future, be it whether he stays or goes. The ideal scenario, you would think, as far as Manchester United are concerned, is that he gets his head right, he plays well, and he performs at a high level for Manchester United that he used to once perform at. And then, come the end of the season, you'll either have a player at Manchester United that can go on and become what they want him to become at Manchester United, or he will have raised his value in the transfer window so that if they come to selling him in the summer, they can get a good price for him.
Okay.
The alternative is, could he go out on loan? And I guess the optics and the PR isn't that great if he goes out on loan and Manchester United are almost having to pay Marcus Rashford's part of his wages to be out on loan. But if you look at this in another way, if he was to do that and they've decided at United, he could go on a straight loan to another club and he performs really, really well at that club. He will come back to Manchester United in the summer with an enhanced market value.
Big if in there, don't I?
It is,
He's got to perform. We were there, weren't we? You and I had this conversation.
Of course.
About Calvin Phillips.
But
if he performs well, he'll go for loads of money.
But we also had this conversation with Jadon Sancho. And it's almost an identical situation that Manchester United find themselves in. And this time last season, Manchester United had effectively said Jadon Sancho doesn't have a future. They let him go out on a straight loan deal to Borussia Dortmund. He performed really, really well for them, helped them get to the Champions League final, no less. Comes back in the summer, and we thought, has he got a future at United with Erik ten Hag? Because they seemed to have kissed and made up by then. But then they decided, actually, Chelsea have come in with a deal that comes with an obligation to buy for over £20 million, which is probably a lot more than they would have got had he not gone on that loan spell to Borussia Dortmund. So maybe United are looking at that as an example and thinking maybe they can do the same thing with Rashford.
Or Mark, can't they just sell him?
If only it was that simple. Yeah, the problem with Marcus Rashford, not only is he probably one of the highest earning players at Manchester United, in the summer of 2023 he signed a brand new bumper contract as well. He has 3.5 years to run on that current Old Trafford deal. So it's not an easy deal to make happen. And then there are not many clubs, particularly in the upper echelons of European football or in the Premier League, that could afford the type of wages that Marcus Rashford is currently on. As Dharmesh alluded to there, if he were to go to a club like AC Milan, they'd be hoping that United would pay a big proportion of his wages. So therefore, it's not a simple cut and dry, right, let's get rid of him, let's go, because he'll be saying, well, I've got 3.5 years on this current money. I'm not going anywhere because I want to earn the money that you've given me. Therefore, it makes any potential permanent deal a really tricky one to do.
All right, I want to talk to you about a couple of other United players. Joshua Zirkzee, not feeling the love the other day. The fans were nicer to him yesterday. Could he be off this month, Mark?
Yeah, a player that signed for Manchester United this summer from Bologna, only 23 years old, 4 goals in 28 appearances. He started brilliantly with that goal on debut, but it hasn't really kicked on from there. And like you say, a lot of frustration from the fans. They've made that very clear about how they feel as well, which is probably unacceptable for a player that is absolutely trying his best. When it comes to the transfer window, we know that Juventus are interested in him, and there are a number of other clubs that are also keen on taking him on loan, the likes of Napoli, Inter Milan, and other Premier League sides have discussed a potential deal. But as far as Joshua Zirkzee is concerned, he wants to stay at Old Trafford. No question about him leaving in this window. He wants to fight, he wants to improve, and he wants to prove to Ruben Amorim that he can play in his starting 11. So as far as he's concerned, focused on Manchester United, and the noise about potential departures is not something that's interested in terms of what he wants to do. There are clubs that will take him, but on loan. So again, another issue. Manchester United not interested in any loan. It would have to be a permanent deal, and it would have to be a significant more than what they pay for him in the summer just gone.
Two things I'd say. Ruben Amorim has actually said he wants to keep him. And also, we shouldn't be surprised that Juventus are interested, because their manager is Thiago Motta, who Zirkzee played under at Bologna and impressed at Bologna. That got him that move to Manchester United in the first place. You can see why Juventus would be interested in trying to sign him.
He was a Ten Hag signing, as was Anthony.
Yeah.
Don't fit with Amorim, it doesn't look like. Could Anthony be on his way this month?
I mean, you say he was a Ten Hag signing. He wasn't fitting in with Ten Hag so far this season as well. He hasn't actually started a game in the Premier League for Manchester United since the 4-0 thrashing to Crystal Palace at the end of last season, when I was told that there are a number of clubs, including clubs from Spain and in Greece, that have approached Manchester United. So they've made direct contact club to club about a potential loan move for Anthony. You mentioned the move that he made. It was back in the summer of 2022. It came very, very late in the window. United probably could have got him for probably half the price earlier on in the window had they gone in then. But if you remember then, United were really stuck in trying to get Frankie de Jong to the football club, and all the focus was on that. And then by the end of the window, it was almost panic stations, and Casemiro came in late, and so did Anthony. And Anthony came in for £82 million. And as I said, he hasn't started a Premier League game since the end of last season, which means he hasn't started a Premier League game under Ruben Amorim, which would probably mean if the right offer was to come along, I think Manchester United would consider it.
Right. Everybody's talking about what's going on at Liverpool, of course, and those three players whose contracts are up at the end of the season. Mark, Mo Salah posted on social media today. I think we can have a look at it. I'd like to have a look at it if we can. Now, he's put himself, Virgil van Dijk, in that shot. What's he doing? No caption. What's that about?
Read between the lines. Obviously, we can only assume what Mo Salah is saying. The three best players at Liverpool, the three players out of contract in the summer. What's going on? What's happening? And I find it quite fascinating to look at how much he's been very vocal, either in the mix zone, in interviews, in post-match interviews, about his future and about what's going on, compared to Trent Alexander-Arnold and Virgil van Dijk, who are all approaching the situation in a very different way. And perhaps the fans feeling different emotions towards each of those three players. Now, the first thing you have to say is that Liverpool are in a real situation here, because Sporting Director Richard Hughes and FSG CEO Michael Edwards, who have come into the club this summer, have inherited this problem. This is a situation that they are trying to deal with. It's not something of their making. You speak to any sporting director in the Premier League, they'll say, as soon as a key player gets down to 2 years, you either sell him or you give him a new contract. Under no circumstances do you allow him to get into the final 12 months of his deal, particularly when you're looking at superstars, as these three are.
In the final 6 months of their deal.
Yeah, if you spoke to me 6 months ago, I would have said the chances of all three of them staying slim, I'd say there's probably 1.5. You'd lose one, you keep one, and there's one on the fence. And I think everyone can work out the three situations with each of them at the moment. And I think this is a really difficult situation, because not only are Liverpool having a season of their life, top of the Champions League, top of the Premier League, and looking outstanding, but the noise is around these three players and the contract situations. But I think you have to look at the way each of them are handling the situation very differently, and I think that's playing into how the fans feel about each of those players.
What is interesting as well, I mean, Mark spoke about it there, how they're handling it. You've seen Virgil van Dijk being very calm about the situation. He's always asked the question whenever he's in an interview, and he says, no update, I'm calm about the situation. Mark mentioned Mohamed Salah has been very vocal of late. I'm in my final year. This is my final year at Liverpool. Whereas Trent Alexander-Arnold is not saying much at all, and admittedly he hasn't been interviewed that much. But there's a big difference for me when you look at Salah and you look at Trent Alexander's situation, because Mohamed Salah, I haven't actually heard of and there will be clubs who desperately would want to sign him, but they haven't been made public at all. We haven't heard of any clubs approaching Liverpool to say, we want to sign Mohamed Salah. Whereas, with Trent Alexander-Arnold, we know that Real Madrid have made an approach to Liverpool. Now, we shouldn't be naive here. Real Madrid aren't going to approach Liverpool unless there's some kind of encouragement that Trent Alexander-Arnold is perhaps leaning towards a move to Real Madrid. Now, Real Madrid can talk to his representatives because Alexander-Arnold can talk to clubs outside England this month. So they can talk to him about a pre-contract agreement, but they actually approached Liverpool about trying to sign him in this transfer window. That approach has been rebuffed. But the mere fact that that happened, you would kind of lean towards, I know Mark was saying, you know, who's staying, who's going. I'm kind of leaning towards, from all the noises that everyone's making, that Van Dijk will stay and sign a new contract. Salah will probably stay and sign a new contract, despite everything that he's saying, simply because it's almost his message and he's doing it publicly to Liverpool. I'm here, look how I'm performing, what are you going to do for me? We don't know where the disagreement is. He says they're very far away. Is it over money? Is it over the contract length? That's not been made public. Whereas Trent Alexander-Arnold, the growing feeling and the mood music is that come the summer, he will be, if not sold, he will move for free to Real Madrid.
Interesting times at Liverpool. Now, I went down to the Monday Night Football studio and spoke to Jamie Carragher about that very thing.
With emotion is a really interesting one, because traditionally it's been the sense of take emotion out of the game. But actually, if you can regulate your emotions, if you can channel and manage your emotions, they can be a real asset to you as a player. It's not about killing them. It's not about going into a game dead inside. No. It's about using them productively.
But this is where a leader who probably is emotional as well deep down in what he's doing, but he's able to channel it in a way where he can inspire people. But you know, with Bruno, who I still think has been magnificent since he signed for Manchester United, regardless of the petulance, which I was guilty of myself as well, so I'm not going to go too deep into that. But the fact is, we're talking about someone like Bruno who is emotionally led, which you said, which is right, where Tony Adams and that are more business-led, like, you know, they're more like...
Lead by example.
Exactly,
But
exactly.
Said, no, it's a really interesting point, because I think it is emotional, but in a very different way. I remember John Terry, when Chelsea had the chance, when Spurs had the chance to win the league at Chelsea, and John Terry said, it's not happening on my watch. No chance. Yeah. And he sets the tone. He's the manager on the pitch. We talk about Roy. Roy was a fantastic central midfielder. He was driven by emotion and spite, but he was also business-like. He channeled it in the right way. You did not see Roy getting needless yellow cards at half-time, walking off with referees because you're complaining about decisions. He came out second half and wanted to put things right. I remember the Champions League semi-final, I think it was. Juventus, and he got the yellow card, it put him out of the final.
And then it was unbelievable after.
Unbelievable after that, because he was able to challenge that emotion in the right way.
Some players, I mean, I played with Ledley King, so quiet, but he led by example. David Beckham for England, you know, he led by example. You know, as young players, you know, David Beckham was one of those players that he would scream and shout in the change rooms, really calm and composed. But then on the pitch, or even in training, you'd watch him, he'd do extras after training. So a lot of things are caught, not only taught. So young players will see that and be like, okay, then maybe that's what we need to be like. It's unbelievable.
I mean, you could watch that game and think, while Arne Slot said Liverpool were prepared for how Manchester United would be set up, one way or another, they might not have been prepared for the intensity that Manchester United played at. And just to come back to that point of emotion, we've been waiting for the three players who are out of contracts. We've been waiting all season to be able to go, oh, look, it's taking a toll on them. Did it take a toll on Trent Alexander-Arnold? Because suddenly it's Real Madrid have made a bid. It's moved on a stage in terms of the reporting. Do you think that was... We're speculating, but do you think that could have been part of what was going on?
Kels, no matter how good you are, how experienced you are, and he has won everything, he's done well coming through the academy. No one could tell me that with all the speculation about Real Madrid and what's going on, and they've made the bid and they've not made a bid, for a hometown boy to go to Liverpool, who's playing at Liverpool, that somewhere along the line, it's not going to affect you some way. Because as much as we are just watching Trent on the pitch and he might be having a poor game, what's going on in Trent's head's going on all the time, every minute. Are you going to stay, Trent? The pressure that's being put on him. Now, for me, I still believe that the owners, the execs, whatever's happened, Kells, with people that might have moved on from the contractual side of things and recruitment, they have taken their eye off the ball for Trent Alexander, Mo Salah, and Virgil van Dijk, the three main protagonists in Liverpool Football Club, to run down their contracts. I cannot understand why it's all shifting onto Virgil and Mo and Trent as to what they're doing, pressure that they're under to try and perform in this time. We're seeing it from Virgil, we're seeing it from Mo, but they're not like from the ingrained Liverpool City, which Trent is obviously feeling and what he's going through at the moment.
Mo Salah's posted this picture as well, just in the last hour or so, where he very clearly knows exactly what he's doing.
That's a cheeky
no
picture.
comment,
Yes.
absolutely no explanation underneath. Just the three of them, which is, you know, very much in keeping with Mo's approach to this situation, which is actually, it has to be said, very different from how Trent Alexander-Arnold and Virgil van Dijk are handling it.
Yeah, but the thing is, can I just say,
different approach.
Even Mo's celebration afterwards was a little bit more Mo.
He went twice, didn't he?
I like
the floor as well.
I like it. I liked what's going on.
But
See, I'm obviously, you two, especially, I mean, I know you since you were, what, 15?
Yeah, young.
And when you've had, you know, West Ham and Portsmouth, was it, took you from West Ham?
Yeah.
And so you've had that transfer sort of speculation around you forever, and you've still scored goals through that and whatever. And I kind of, this is heresy here, but I just kind of feel like with Trent, he will have known about Real Madrid, so I just thought he had an off day rather than it getting to him. But again, I can't really contend you two, because you guys know, all the three of you know.
What Arne Slot said afterwards was that he sort of parked the transfer speculation, which has moved on in this week, certainly in terms of the reporting of it. There's a concrete bid in now from Real Madrid, which makes a difference. But also, he said, Dalot played brilliantly. Konate on the right-hand side of central defence wasn't fully fit, had just come back into the side, which means that he's not necessarily, Trent's having to work a little bit harder there as well. That there are other issues that were affecting his performance.
That's what I'm saying. Man United played well on the day, so it's just like it wasn't an easy game to play in.
Yeah.
The intensity of the game, it was a high-energy game. So obviously, there's a lot of noise around Trent at the minute, and. You know, you have to put yourself in his shoes.
And he's played a lot of games because Conor Bradley, who would replace him, was only fit enough to come on at the very end of the game. So he's been playing all the right backs.
It's the only bad game he's had all season.
Yeah.
You know, to set those sort of standards that high, and then people like saying like, but you must be like, what's he thinking? You know, at the end of it, like he's in a position where Liverpool could go on and win the league. You know, the Champions League, and then he's thinking, okay, then I've got a chance to go to Real Madrid. You know, when Real Madrid come knocking, there's not many players that say no. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on. But the fact that a lot of people are saying all this negative stuff about Trent, he's been unbelievable this season.
I think that was my concern. 17 goals conceded before kick-off yesterday. It was the best defence in the Premier League. He's actually had a good season. It's coincided with everything coming to a crescendo. But I'm not... Listen, I will never know. None of us will ever know. But I just think, I can't believe it would have got to him. I can't believe it. Only because when you look at what he's won everything there is to win. There has been noise around Trent forever, even in those periods where people didn't rate him, didn't think he was up to it. He's won everything.
So, but for me, Darren, so it's coincidence for him to have the worst ever game I've ever seen him have.
Yeah.
That was the worst game I've seen.
Yes, and you're right, but I think...
In and around that Real Madrid talk and everything.
Maybe his strength of character that it is only one game.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the experience that you're talking about.
But I think in general terms, it was the worst game Liverpool have had because, let's not kid ourselves and everybody
worse than
watching.
Forest?
Well, only in so much as everybody expected them to beat Manchester United by a cricket score. Yeah. The form of the two teams, one defeat in 27 matches under Slot, Liverpool losing their last 4 in all competitions and conceding 11 goals. Everybody expected them to win. You ask people, they won't. Sometimes we're too professional to say it on air, but, you ask people off air, whatever, is it 4-5-0?
Yeah.
6-0? Yeah, everyone.
8-0.
I don't think Liverpool supporters was there because it's Liverpool, Man United. And I think you could look at previous seasons and there were this is, at some stage, this run of, big wins over Manchester United at Anfield is going to come to an end.
Agree.
And It just felt like that kind
could
of...
have
It was
yesterday.
in the middle of the game was nearly called off, and then there was a lot of... Because there was a
And
lot
they
of
should have
snow
won,
in
by
the
the way.
area.
The chance at Xerxes, the Maguire's chance at the
Maguire
end.
And there was a
should have
great
scored,
chance,
yeah.
with
But
Harry
this is-
Maguire. When
Yeah.
I suppose on paper, I'm just thinking on paper, you know, you look at that back three who was so poor against Newcastle the other night. Again, I said, you know, they scored a 2, could have had 5. Jacob Murphy on one side, Anthony Gordon on the other.
Yeah.
And you're just thinking, if Luis Diaz and Mo Salah pull Maguire and Martinez and De Ligt apart in the same way, it's just going to be brutal.
messy, yeah.
But Liverpool as a team, maybe they, as a team, they believed in their own publicity. Maybe they looked at all of the headlines and Amorim saying, we're afraid of Liverpool and all of that kind of thing. And maybe collectively they played badly. They missed opportunities. They fell behind. I'm not really sure you can ascribe that to one player. I think that is a collectively bad performance for my money.
Yeah. And it's whether or not that's a one-off, or whether or not they're going into a little dip, which they haven't had this season, and yet the other teams challenging for the league, most notably Arsenal, had theirs a little bit earlier on and looked very much as though they've recovered from that. But it was a 1-1 draw.